Yama. My name's Brad Moggridge. I'm a Kamilaroi man, currently a Associate Professor of Indigenous Water Science at the University of Canberra in southeastern Australia. I come from the lands of the Ngunnawal people, and I acknowledge their presence and their existence and their caring for country and their elders past and present for the lands that I sit on today. I acknowledge all the respective nations and countries that people attending COP27 are from, and hopefully we can have a great dialogue for Indigenous people to have a voice around climate change. I am a hydrogeologist by training, or environmental hydrogeologist, and currently in the space of looking at how traditional knowledge can actually assist Western water management with regards to the way it's managed. But today I'm here to talk to you about our challenges and some of the aspects around Indigenous knowledge and how the climate has changed. Australia is the driest inhabited continent on Earth, and Indigenous people on this continent are, some of the oldest surviving cultures on the planet. So we have old knowledge, old connections, old stories, old observations that have been passed down from generation to generation, and we are a key part of the landscape. However, our old knowledge is not part of the way we manage the landscape, the way we care for our country. We do have a voice, but most of the time that voice is advisory, and governments can take it or leave it, whether that's local government, national government or state government. So we're here we have a cultural obligation to care for country. We have old stories, and as I mentioned, our observations go back thousands of generations. So the impacts felt on country are in our stories and our songs. And I believe my pitch is that our knowledge is evidence. And so I'll take you on a journey of that old knowledge. We've been here before. Our stories have indicated that climate has changed in the past, and our stories talk of those changes and also how Indigenous people have adapted to those changes. When you look at some of the stories that are still told in modern day contexts about moving to higher country, or the seas encroaching on traditional lands and people adapting to moving to higher country, those stories go back to the end of the last ice age. So, they're between 7 and 10 to 11,000 years old, and they're still spoken about today. So those stories of observation have our evidence of adapting to climate change. We, as a people, when you look at how mitigation and adaptation strategies are put forward at a national sense, but also at a local sense, we are not part of the conversations mostly. I'll give you an example. I was a contributing author to the last Assessment Report 6 from the IPCC, but we were only included as Indigenous people, Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people, were only included in Working Group 2 document. And unfortunately, our knowledge wasn't seen as evidence for Working Group 1 document. I'll just sort of read a couple of examples. Chapter 1, page 40 of Working Group document, it talks about Indigenous and local knowledge are used most extensively by IPCC Working Group 2. So we're already pushed into Working Group 2 document, not in the science document. And Chapter 1, page 115 of Working Group 1 document, Indigenous and local knowledge includes information about past and present climate states. However, assessing this knowledge and integrating it with the scientific literature remains a challenge to be met. So the challenge is there for the IPCC and also governments contributing to IPCC documents. This lack of assessment, capability and integration leads to the most of Working Group 1 chapters still not including Indigenous and local knowledge in their assessment findings. So I see that as an excuse. When you look at the scheme of things, we are seen as storytellers, and our knowledge is not seen as evidence when it comes to climate change itself. And also our further challenges is that being in Working Group Working Group 2 document leaves us not in the science. And that's been a challenge for especially Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people in Australia, is that our knowledge is not seen as fact or evidence. It is put into the realm of fable, myth and legend. And so we are put into the realm of fiction. And so our knowledge is lesser to Western science. So when you put those two together, you see that we are mostly advisory. We're not giving evidence. And for Assessment Report 6, we were invited as contributing authors, not as lead authors. And we hope that the challenge put forward is that for Assessment Report 7 into the future, that Indigenous authors are key contributing authors, key authors, not just invited contributing authors. So it's up, at the moment, it's up to the lead authors, which are mostly, let's say all non-Indigenous, have to invite Indigenous people as contributing authors. So hopefully for Assessment Report 7 that changes and we can see a way forward, and the IPCC sees the errors in its ways in previous assessment reports that Indigenous knowledge can be a part. And when you look at Working Group 2 document, our input was only minor, but it still we had a voice. And you see that Indigenous people are the most affected by climate change, but contribute the least to carbon emissions. But we want to be part of the decarbonisation of industry, but also the power network. We are resisting coal and coal seam gas projects on our traditional lands. We're fighting against that because we know the impacts of what man-made climate change can have on our country. And there was evidence in Assessment Report 6, that people in the Torres Strait, the islands off northern Australia, are feeling the brunt. They are the guinea pigs of climate change, and they're experiencing climate change right now. We have larger seas due to sea level rise, but the king tides are getting bigger. We're having bigger sea surges, and those communities are feeling the brunt. You're having saltwater intrusion on their freshwater lenses. And sadly, some of the reports from the Torres Strait Islands is that some of the old people, their ancestors have been buried, and now they're starting to pop up because of the saltwater intrusion. They're losing their territories, they're losing their traditional lands by saltwater intrusion. So they're going to be refugees in their own country, and no one seems to be talking about it, worried about it. It was a part of Working Group 2's commentary around that, and the decision makers aren't taking that seriously. We've survived climate change, and potentially, when you think about it, mitigation is it's too late. We have to adapt now. The climate has changed. Some of the aspects around our cultural indicators are showing change already. Flowers are flowering at different time, or plants are flowering at different times. Birds are moving. We're in Australia actually now. We've had three seasons of La Nina, so wet period, and so our old people would have known that under La Nina it's a different season, because our emus are breeding at different times rather than the traditional times, and potentially sometimes twice a season, where normally they only breed at once a season. So, but also, we've survived, we've been there before, and we've adapted, and we're still here. So I think for Assessment Report 7 and for COP27, I hope that traditional knowledge and Indigenous people are a key part of discussions, and not in the background, not in the back rooms or not in the main arenas, and we have a voice on the main stage. Because the challenge is that we are survivors, surviving is built in, and for us to move forward as a planet, Indigenous people must be part of the solutions. And I wish you well at COP27. I wish I could be there, but I hope things change for the future, and we can get some solid ways forward to actually change the way we look at country, the way we care for it, the way we value it. And I think from an Indigenous point of view, that can be a key part of loving this country and your lands better with an Indigenous ways of knowing and being. So I wish you well, and thanks for the opportunity to have a voice.